Okay, this should be my last video for today. And the last thing we're going to do is go over the statement of cash flow. So we've done the other three financial statements, and we want to get this last one, statement of cash flows. And we know, we've gone over this briefly in class, it's just cash comes in, cash comes out. And you personally track your cash, right? You might earn a wage, so you get your um, paycheck. So cash goes in the bank, and then you spend the money, cash goes out, and either your bank balance goes up or it goes down. Okay, well, it's a little more complicated than that because we've got these three categories of cash flows. So let's go over and get an understanding of those three categories. And this image right here is very helpful for that. So let's kind of get started. Even on the first day of class, we talked about if a company needs to obtain a big chunk of money, it has two means of doing that. And let's even go back and look at that visual. So if I need a big chunk of money, we can borrow from like a bank, so from creditors, or we might go to family and friends, and those are our investors, and give them some ownership rights. So we have investors and creditors are who we can go to get big chunks of money, or the company can. So let's connect that back in over here. So that means I'm either borrowing money, right? Debt, we borrow from creditors. Equity financings means stockholders' equity, that would be our investors. So I can either borrow money from creditors or obtain cash from investors and give them ownership rights, the common stock shares. Okay, so if money comes in that way, we consider that's how we finance the assets with debt and equity. And that even fits our accounting equation. Assets equal liabilities plus stockholders' equity. So here's our debt, here's our investors' equity. So we finance assets with debt and equity. Okay, so the money comes in. What are we going to do with it? Well, if we were a candy store, we might actually buy a building and maybe a van or something as well. So we will invest in these assets that are going to be around a while. And so we call those long-term assets. So buying those long-term assets is the investing. Now, we use those long-term assets, right? We stock our candy store with candy, and those assets are going to be used to generate sales revenue. And of course, it's going to result in, we also are going to have various operating expenses to generate that, to generate that revenue. So we got to buy, gas for the van, pay our employees, pay utilities. Maybe we're renting we're not renting the building, but that wouldn't be an asset then. We wouldn't own it. But all the various different kinds of expenses to operate the business. Then revenue minus expenses results in profits. Hopefully we'll have net income. And if we have net income, that will satisfy our creditors and investors. Okay, so that picture portrays these three cash flow activities. Financing is buying and selling these long-term assets. Financing is transactions with long-term liabilities, our creditors, or stockholders' equity, our investors, owners. Okay, so cash transactions with these two parties is financing. Cash transactions with long-term assets, whether I'm buying or selling, that's investing. And operating is cash coming in. That's what we're in business for, right? Our normal operations. Cash will come in for revenue. Cash will be paid out for expenses. So those are our three categories for cash flow. Okay, and then so you will recognize it, back here, I have the three as well, and I've just rewritten the exact same thing I had on the page we were going over. Okay, so let's apply that now to our problem 8, which has ended up being very long, isn't it? So I'm going to put statement of cash flow column right here. And so if we have cash coming in or out, I'm going to identify the activity over here. I just didn't think I had room over here by the cash account, or I would have actually positioned it right over here, but I didn't have room for that. Okay, this first one, cash came in from issuing stock. So cash coming in from an investor is a financing activity. So I am going to label that FA, financing activity, and I've got room. I'm going to put the 30,000 right there as well. Squeeze that in. Okay, and I took a pause and I kind of rewrote that to get that all in there. The next one, cash went out to buy land. Cash went out to buy land. So we spent money on a long-term asset, right? That's investing. These long-term assets is an investing activity. I'm just going to put IA for investing, and that was cash out, so put a minus $12,000 there. Try to squeeze that in. That's supposed to be minus 12,000 investing activity. Okay, and I'm gonna, just because I ran over here and I kind of need this space, I'm gonna kind of clean this up a little bit to allow room to write my cash flows. The next one is cash came in from borrowing a note payable. Cash came in from borrowing a note payable. So long-term liabilities, that's finance. We're financing with debt. So that's going to be a financing activity. The cash in is a positive 10,000. So 1, 2, 3. So 30 is financing. The 12,000 was investing, and this 10,000 is financing, and I've just put it over here as well. The next one, cash came in from revenue. Cash coming in from revenue. So cash coming in from revenue is operating, cash receipts from revenue. So that's going to be operating. So OA, a positive $20,000. So I'm putting it on both sides, actually. Operating positive 20,000, operating 20,000. So put wherever it works for your particular paper. Next one, cash went out for utilities expense. Cash was paid for utility expense. So if cash goes out for any kind of an expense, it's an operating activity. Cash paid for expenses is operating. So that's going to be operating. And it's a minus 1,000. Same thing. Next one, $15,000 cash paid for operating expense. That's also operating activity. Both of those are cash payments for expenses. Operating activity minus 15,000. Okay, and then number 7, we had $2,000 paid for a dividend. $2,000 paid for a dividend. So transactions with creditors and investors. Dividends are paid to our stockholders. Those are our investors. That makes it a financing activity. Cash paid to investors is FA, financing activity. FA, financing activity, a minus 2 grand. FA. Okay, and then number 8 was nothing. All right, now we're going to take these cash flows and write out our cash flow statement. All right, so the cash flow statement covers a period of time. So we're going to write for year ended December 31st, year 2. And again, you will not abbreviate when you do this in your actual homework in Connect. I'm just abbreviating because our hands are going to get tired. Okay, we're going to start with operating activities. So cash flows from operating activities. Okay, so the first category, we're going to do cash flow from operating activities. So we had, let's go back and look at what we had. We had 1, 2, 3 operating activities. One was from revenue, and the other two, one was for utilities expense and one was for operating expense. So we have 3 operating activities. Whoop, went the wrong way. Okay, so we have cash receipts, and I could write from revenues, but it's actually, keep in mind, revenues comes from customers. So your author uses cash receipts from customers. That was the $20,000. And we'll put a dollar sign there to show we're measuring dollars. Cash receipts from customers. And again, that was the revenue. That was cash receipt from revenue. Okay, then we had cash payment or cash paid for utilities expense. And I am not going to get all this in. I'm just going to abbreviate utility expense. Cash payment for utility expense is what I'm trying to get there. Okay, and that's a negative 1,000. Cash is going out, so I put it as a negative. The other was cash payment for operating expense, and I'm going to abbreviate that as well. Cash payment for operating expense, a minus 15,000. Okay, we have our 3 cash operating activities, and then I will sum that up. Net cash flow from operating activities. From operating activities, and I really went over. That's not a good thing to do, but I couldn't get it all in. Net cash flow from operating activities, 20,000 minus 1 minus 15,000, and then I'm going to take it to the right, $4,000. Put a dollar sign in front of that. Okay, then we're going to do investing activities. So cash flows from investing. Okay, I'm running a little short of time, so I'm going to pause and try to save some time. Okay, so we had one investing activity, that was the purchase of land. So let's go put it on our. Okay, I paused real quick because I'm running short of time, but it's cash paid to purchase land, and then net cash flow from investing activities, and then the third one we'll do finance. Okay, so cash flows from financing activities. We're going to go back real quick. We had 1 issued stock and paid a dividend. So I'm going to go put those on my, oh, no, I missed one, and the loan. So stock, the loan, and the dividend. Let's go put that on our financial statement. Okay, so I've put the 3 cash receipts from stock issued, 30,000, cash receipts from loan, 10 grand, cash paid for dividend, minus 2. The net cash flows from financing activity, I just abbreviated that. Net those 3 and you get $38,000. Then we're going to show the increase and arrive at ending cash. Okay, so I've taken the 4 minus 12 plus 38. The net increase in cash is 30. So it went up 30,000. We're going to add that to our beginning cash balance. Now let's go back to the problem and find that particular number. So cash beginning balance was 2,000. So I go back to my financial statement, add that 2, and then we get the ending cash balance to be 2,000. And this should agree to the balance sheet. And let's go look at that 32,000. We should have that same number, and we do, 32,000 on the balance sheet. Okay, that goes you through the categories. You should be able to do the rest of the homework on your own. You may find that you want to use the book as a resource as well for some of the things I may not have gotten totally through. All right, that's it.